Ladies and gentlemen, mock draft 1.0 for the San Francisco 49ers is officially here. So we're going to get into it. I'm going to read through all the picks. I'm going to tell you why I picked them and the rationale behind it. And I'm going to take you inside this brain and how I would start to look towards the draft and help the 49ers continue to build a sustainable roster for years to come. So let's get right into it, shall we? Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about this draft. I'm calling this the Risers mock draft because every single player that I picked here, all of these, I think that they're all going to be bumped up like from wherever I took them. So I did a PFF mock draft simulator. And so I treated it like a board. And so the players that were available, they either were there or they weren't. And I took who was available and I kind of slotted it accordingly to give you a little bit of context of how I put this together. So let's start with the number one pick for the 49ers in the first round. And that is Will Campbell at number 11. Now, he was here. I don't know if he will be here. And again, you're going to hear me say this a lot with every single one of these picks. But since he was, I took him. To me, he is the best offensive lineman in this class. I already did a video on it. But to give you the short and sweet explanation, he's an exceptional pass protector. And his power, when he gets his hands on you in the run game, he can move you against your will. And so those are some of the things that I like. Some of the things that he can work on are pad level and his hand placement. He will be knocked for his short arms. I don't really care about the short arms as long as he knows how to play and be effective with what he's got. So I view him as a day one starter at either offensive tackle or guard. So this is how the 49ers could juggle this. If they think that he could play right tackle, they put him out there. And if you're like, well, what do they do with Colton McKivitz? Colton could actually play left guard, and I actually think he would be a better guard than he would be tackle. So that could be an option for kind of filling out your offensive line. But if he struggles at right tackle because going from left to right isn't as seamless as it may seem, you could put him at left guard and keep Colton at right tackle. And then all of a sudden, your left side is Trent Williams and Will Campbell. And then who knows, when Trent's ready to retire, you bump Will Campbell out to tackle. But the 6'6", 323-pound tackle, I think, would be a good option if he is available. He's got a lot of swag. He to me comes across as a leader from a character standpoint and a grittiness standpoint. It's kind of what you're looking for in an offensive lineman. He's the kind of guy who's competitive and he's going to punch you in the face and he's going to do it with a smile. And those are the kinds of guys that I like on the interior offensive line. With number two, probably going to absolutely destroy his name, and I apologize, but I'm going with Ole Miss edge Princely Uma Anna Millen. I'm just going to call my guy Princely, baby. 6'4", 255 pounds, second team All-American. He's a guy that I took here in the second round that I'm not sure he is going to be available here because we might be talking about him as a mid-round, first-round draft pick based on his size and speed and technique and everything that he brings to the table. He had 7 sacks last year in the SEC, and I think he is just going to be one of the biggest risers in this class. If you haven't heard of him yet, you will probably hear about him throughout this process because, like I said, I think he'll be one of the biggest risers, and he could even be a guy that we talk about at pick 11 when it's all said and done. So again, theme of this one are risers, but he's the guy that I took in the second round at pick 43. Another guy that I think is more of a pie in the sky type get is Oregon defensive tackle Derek Harmon. Some have him potentially going at the bottom of the first, but he was available. So I jumped on it, and we went with the 6'5", 310-pound defensive tackle out of Oregon. What I like about him is his ability to be stout in the run game, take on double teams, but also be effective as an interior pass rusher. And that's exactly what the San Francisco 49ers need. They need a guy who can do it both. They need to get a 3 down, 3 tech who can be extremely effective, because that's why they brought in Hargrave. And unfortunately, Hargrave is probably going to be off the roster this year, as we already know from John Lynch. So the 49ers need to replace this guy. This could be a potential pick in the second round. This could be a guy that maybe you trade up for, fringe first, but he is going to be a riser. And I was absolutely shocked to see him here, but I had to take him. But you can kind of see what I'm building. Offensive line in the first round, and then I go edge DT in the second and third. I am focused on building the trenches. That is what I am looking for. And then also the other theme of this particular mock draft is replenishing the secondary. We don't know what the future is for Talanoa Hufanga and Charvarius Ward. And the 49ers need better depth at a lot of positions in the secondary. So I snagged Texas safety Andrew Makuba. He's 6 foot, 190 pounds. And it's kind of in the same kind of thought process as what they did with Malik Mustafa last year. But you're getting a guy who is probably one of the best athletes in this class. He runs a 4.33 40. He is so fast. His coverage skills are absolutely fully on display. He's a good tackler. I'm almost willing to say great tackler. He is a very, very solid open field guy, and his closing ability is on full display. So to me, I look at him as a versatile piece that can play safety, can play nickel, could probably even play outside corner if you needed him to. He just seems like a solid guy to have on your team and could be a guy that the 49ers turn to. And if you guys remember, he made the game sealing play against Arizona State one-on-one in coverage, goes up, elevates, and makes a beautiful game-sealing interception that was able to advance the Texans. He was a stud, and he's a guy that's really popped on film. This one is an interesting one because he doesn't fit typically what 49ers Kyle Shanahan is looking for at tight end. And so I went this route because I'm looking at it from a little bit of a different standpoint. I'm looking at it from the sense of getting Brock Purdy weapons. And this guy is 6'5", 236 pounds, and he's just a fluid, natural mover. I mean, and his ball skills are absolutely insane. He kind of reminds me of Jawan Jennings a little bit, maybe a little bit more athletic Jawan Jennings, but you can see the ball skills on full display here. He is a guy who has the potential to be a big-time weapon and a mismatch nightmare in the next level. So although he doesn't fit the kind of inline George Kittle type tight end, again, it's a deviation. I mean, look at that start-stop speed right there. I'm just looking for a guy who can get open and be a threat in the passing game. He lines up out of the slot quite a bit, so he's more of like a big slot type wide receiver guy. But if you're getting safeties and linebackers matched up on you, he could be a real problem for defenses, especially when you have an offense with Christian McCaffrey and a Brandon Ayuk when he returns, and Jawan Jennings and Kittle, and you throw in a guy like that we got right here, the tight end out of Syracuse. Man, he could be an absolute nightmare. Another name that I'm just going to bow out because I will absolutely butcher it. But again, I think, and I had the actual opportunity to watch him up close when I covered Cal versus Syracuse. And you can see his athletic ability. He's a big guy, but he looks like he could add some weight and join the George Kittle school of blocking. I would love to see that. Also, what I want the 49ers to do is look at cornerback. In the fourth round at 137th overall pick, I took cornerback Dorian Strong, 6'1", 185 pounds. And this guy is going to fit the mold of what we already have with Renardo Green and Diamador Lenore. Exceptional coverage skills and plays press man very, very well. Good size, good length, and I think he is a guy that could make an impact right away. Seems like a high character guy. He was a wide receiver in high school, so he has pretty solid ball skills. Willing tackler, definitely a guy that I think will go higher than the fourth round. But if the 49ers could get their hands on him, I think he fits. He fits the mold of kind of the way the 49ers cornerback room is kind of evolving towards what you see what they're doing with Renardo and Diamador. So I would love this for the San Francisco 49ers. He just strikes me as a guy that would fit exactly what the 49ers are looking at. And if Ward is gone, you're going to need some cornerback depth, and they have been looking for that third cornerback. Now they got it in Renardo, but Charvarius, might be leaving in free agency as we assumed. And not only that, I go back-to-back corners here with a consensus All-American, Noel Williams, Cal cornerback, 6'1", 200 pounds. I had the pleasure of watching him all year and covering Cal, and he had 7 interceptions, and he strikes me as a guy who's going to be a better pro than he was a college player. He was also their return guy at Cal. He's a good athlete, and I really do think he's someone that is slept on in this class. Could be higher in NFL boards than media boards, but he is a good player. And if you could get 2 strong cornerbacks back to back in the fourth round while adding a speedster at safety, you're talking about replenishing the secondary. I think we've done it here. So that's kind of the thought process that I was going here with kind of rebuilding. I know the 49ers have Darrell Luter Jr. and they have some other cornerbacks, but I think it's time to go back to the well and see what you can get. And these are 2 cornerbacks that I would absolutely love to have on the 49ers. This guy is my number 1 center in this class for right now. Obviously, I still got a lot of work to do in regards to breaking down the film of all the prospects, but Jake Majors out of Texas, 6'3", 315 pounds. To me, he can do it all. He can do it all as a pass protector, run blocker, getting to second level. He moves like really well. I think to me, you can pull him. He's a guy that I really would love to have on this roster. He feels like a guy who could potentially start day one as a center. He has tons of experience playing at a very high level. When all throughout the postseason, I was watching Jake Majors. You have Kelvin Banks on the outside. I'm not the biggest fan of Kelvin Banks. He's kind of a deviation of what I'm looking for offensive linemen. But Jake Majors, to me, seems like your prototypical type center. And I think he could be a guy that the 49ers could plug right in and he could play day one. I love Jake Majors. He's one of my favorite prospects in this class already. In the 6th round, I go linebacker, Jalen Walker. 6'1", 218 pounds. You might not have heard of this kid. He was a transfer from James Madison, played at Indiana last year, but he is fast. He is speed. He is so athletic, and that is what I'm looking for. You might look at his size, you'd be like, oh, not that big. Neither is Malik Mustafa. Again, it's about the heart that you play with, and it's about the mentality that you play with. And he is physical. He is fast. And these are highlights from James Madison. He went over to Indiana and he played extremely well. So he's a guy that intrigues me very much. And here in the 6th round, I'm all for it. So I don't know what you guys think about that, but he's a guy that I like. And then you have a guy right here with the 7th round pick, 256, Maryland defensive tackle Jordan Phillips. I would be shocked to see him go this late just based on the tape that I've seen of him. 6'3", 320 pounds. He's exactly what you want for a big 0 tech, a 3 tech, a guy who moves well, big body. He moves more like he's 6'1", 300 compared to being 6'3", 320. He moves really well. He holds up against double teams, and he can rush the passer on the interior. Um, I would assume he's going to go a lot higher than this. And this is typical of the boards on PFF and all the mock draft simulators is, players are kind of ranked low. And then as we get through the Senior Bowl and the Combine, the boards kind of start to more closely resemble um, what the actual draft order will be in regards to some of these players. So for me, this was kind of just like, I like this player. He's here. I'm taking him. Doesn't mean it necessarily will replicate what I think is going to happen, but this is where we're at. This is 1.0 mock draft. It's more so getting to know prospects than we can target, and that might be available in the first 5 rounds. I would say most of these guys are going to go in the first 5 rounds. So I liked it considering it's my first mock draft of the day or of the year. I like the way it was structured. I felt like I was able to attack the positions that I think need to be injected with young talent. Keep in mind, there's still free agency. They have the potential to re-sign some players. I'm more looking at this from where do I put young talent and develop young talent at a cost-controlled rate, and how we can build that back-end depth that has maybe been lacking on the last year or two. So based on this, I like it. I'm not going to lie, but I want to know what you guys think. So let me know in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.